I'm a 22-year-old Kenyan. I'm born and raised in Nairobi here in Kenya. And at 19, I relocated to Hungary to pursue a bachelor's degree in professional piloting and aviation engineering. And I was just about to say hi and meet it with the same energy that I was getting from Budapest. But it was just a blank stare, they even looked away. The first thing that just made me feel so alone was a welcoming community really goes a long way. And then the other thing is Debrecen is smaller. Yeah, and the city also had more things to do.
When we talk about the rent price in Budapest or in Debrecen, or if we talk about the rent price in Nairobi.
Yes, I even moved there for a year at some point. Yeah, so I used to travel there for the weekends, during summers.
What do you think there is something about the Hungarian culture that people should know and you think that nobody knows about? I think it's a hard one because you said that you didn't know about a lot of the Hungarian culture before coming in. But what do you think is something that you find out in Hungary that is not so well known about Hungary? We are on. Hi, Michelle. Finally, it's happening. Thank you for
Hi.
doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be only fair to say that we did a few tries until we managed to synchronize our schedules.
Yeah.
I hope everything is fine with you. I think we are in two different sides of the world due to the fact that you are in a warmer situation than me. Michelle, I would like to start the talk. First of all, thank you for doing this. Thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it a lot. I would like to start by giving us a bit of your background, where you are originally from and where you are living at the moment.
Okay, so I'm a 22-year-old Kenyan. I'm born and raised in Nairobi here in Kenya. And at 19, I relocated to Hungary to pursue a bachelor's degree in professional piloting and aviation engineering. And I've lived there for 3 years, so I'm currently on break. So I'm currently in Kenya, Nairobi. Yeah.
It's piloting. Okay, this is something I didn't know. So, because honestly, the first thing that I want to ask you, how do you end up from Kenya to Hungary? That would be the first question. What sparked your interest exactly in Hungary?
I think how I ended up in Hungary was a mix of luck meeting preparedness, because I was applying to study. Hungary was not really my goal. I was trying to go to the US since I finished high school. I was doing my applications, and so my goal was to go to the US. And because the US applications take time, I enrolled for a university here in Kenya, and I was studying aeronautical engineering. And I didn't quite like it. I thought that was what I wanted to do. Even when I was applying to study in the US, that's what I was applying for. But after going to school and that just wasn't fitting, I remember just having a lighthearted conversation with my sister because she's in the aviation industry. And she was telling me, Michelle, I feel like you're really, really smart and I meet pilots every day. So I feel like you should look into that. Because I told her, I saw an opportunity for piloting in Hungary, but it's not what I want to do. I was really focused on the engineering route. And so I saw the opportunity, but I didn't take it seriously. And then while I was on my YouTube, I saw a video about Wizz Air, which is a Hungarian airline. And they were talking about having this project or goal of hiring 1,000 female pilots by 2027. And I was like, oh, I think I like that, because here in Kenya, it's a very male-dominated field. And I'd had a conversation with one of the really, how would I phrase it? She's a really, really big captain here for our national carrier, which is Kenya Airways. And she was talking about how, despite all her accolades and her awards and her experience in the field, she still struggles to get into certain roles because of her gender. And so seeing the initiative by Wizz Air, I was like, okay, I feel like that's an environment that really cater to the types of opportunities that I'm trying to pursue And so in that sense, Hungary became a conducive environment for that dream to be able to grow in its fullness. Yeah. So that's why I was like, okay, so I'm gonna apply and we'll see how this goes. And I got accepted and I ended up coming to Hungary. Yeah.
Uh, really interesting. So really interesting about I really didn't know. So I'm traveling quite a lot due to my job. And I have to be honest, now that you mention it, I never thought about it, but now that you mention it, I realize that it's a male-dominant world is of an aviation. I rarely hear in the cockpit woman speaking,
Yeah.
and you are absolutely right. I never thought about this, but is it
Mhm.
already in the university a male-dominant? Is it the way it's hard to get in the universities for something like that? Or is it only hiring, the hiring process hard?
Um, I think it's a mix of a lot of things. Um, First, I think naturally because there's a lot of men in the field, men have more mentors, like men have more, like it's very easy for you to nurture that interest as a man as opposed to like as a woman because I think I can when I have conversations with my peers, a lot of them have a lot of like mentors and stuff like that, like people that are already pilots that are in the field. And so it's easier for them in terms of the network that are available for them to like tap into automatically. Because I feel like um men and women are very different. Like when I sit with female pilots and I sit with male pilots, we interact very differently. And there's the emotional side of it. Because one thing that I didn't really know about the field and the career as a whole is how they take our psychology very seriously. Like we have to do psychology tests to make sure that we're okay mentally and that. And so being a woman and like you're very emotional and it's not really an environment that really suits that type of you get because I feel like as women we're more emotional than logical. And so being in an environment and you're told that this is what your day to day is going to look like, this is you have to maintain a certain level of stability. And so you have to kind of like detach a little bit. And also like the whole traveling thing. People ask me about the whole family stuff. Like, are you going to want to have a family? How is that going to work for you? And I feel like that is a very crucial factor for a woman as opposed to a man because
Uh,
of such,
You are
I feel
right.
like, yeah,
I mean, you are right from
yeah.
one perspective, but as you have men pilot having
Hmm.
families as well, I think for me it would be only fair to say that at the end it's the same thing. Yes, you might have to have a longer period off, but at the end you are not. It's like it's not impossible, right? So I don't see it
Yeah,
such a critical. And if you
yeah.
talk about emotions,
Mhm.
that's critical because at the end is the same thing. Either you are a man or a woman, you are able to have a family in both ways, and in
Mm-hmm.
both cases.
Okay, but I feel like when it comes to the family aspect, the only way that it becomes a critical factor is with regard to your health. So, we have certain conditions that once you have, it becomes very difficult for you to stay in the field, like high blood pressure, or like high blood pressure, or like anything that can or like anemia, for example. So, for instance, if as a woman, like if you give birth and you develop a condition from the situation, it can easily become it can easily become detrimental because when you do your medical checks, they can either tell you to stay out of the field for a certain amount of time until you stabilize, or it can just eliminate you in general. So, with regards to that, it's it becomes when you're looking at long term, like people who are able to stay in the field like for the longest, then that becomes kind of like a like a factor. Yeah.
Extremely interesting. So we went a bit in off script, let's say like this, but I think it's a
Uh,
really interesting fact. which I like.
Mhm.
And talking about emotions, Michelle, I'm coming back to this
Mhm.
now, but
Mhm.
we all remember the
Uh-huh,
case
uh-huh.
of the Eurowings pilot who, after a breakup, decided that his life is too not that interesting anymore. So I would
Mhm.
say, yeah, he was emotional. So I think we have cases in both
Yeah. It goes both
in both.
ways.
It goes both ways. So I'm pretty sure that
Mhm.
that's the case. And what was the expectation that you had? What did you know about Hungary before you moved in?
Mm, mm, I didn't really know much about the country, and I really tried to look through YouTube for a number of anything that I could find, but there wasn't really much. And so because of that, while I was preparing to go, I remember I was having a conversation with my dad and I was telling him, okay, school starts on the 6th of September, but I'd like to travel in a way that I have like about 2 weeks to just familiarize myself with the environment. And at the time, I didn't really know how different it would be from the US. Because I was working towards moving to the US, I did a lot of research on the country. And so in my head, I just imagined that it wouldn't be that different. And yeah, I feel like I was I was taken aback when I arrived because it was quite it was quite everything, like the culture to everything. So there wasn't really that much information. Even to this day, I feel like I create a lot of content around my experience in Hungary. And so a lot of students do send people who are interested in coming, they do send me like messages and they ask me like how is life there? Like what can I expect do you get? So I feel like there's still not that broad of there's not that much information about it by people that are like me. And so it's still a gap that's I feel like I try to fill through my experiences and documenting and stuff like that. But yeah, generally I didn't really have a lot of information about the country. Only the language. I started learning the language when I was in Kenya. So that was it gave me a little bit of insight into a little bit of the culture and what to expect, but not accurate information.
I think we can come. I would come to the language part a bit later, but I have a question that goes a bit in the back. How was the
Mm-hmm.
admission process to the university, Michelle? Was that
Mm-hmm.
complicated?
No. No, 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 no. Compared to the US applications that I'd done, this one was very, very easy. So what happened was there's this thing called the Stipendium Hungaricum Scholarship, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
partnership between the Kenyan government and the Hungarian government. So I went online, I filled the application, and after filling the application, I submitted it to, they have something like a sending partner. So a sending partner is an organization in your home country, like Kenya, for example. Our sending partner is our Ministry of Education because they understand our education system. And so they're
To
able
match
to
it.
present, yeah. They're able to act like as a middle person. If 1,000 people apply and they only need 200, then the Ministry of Education is at a better position to analyze every student because they understand our academic system as opposed to Hungarian universities. And so, yeah, the first step was filling the application, submitting it to the sending partner, and I was called for an interview. And for the interview, amongst the things I had to prepare for was to understand a little bit more about Hungary. So I had questions regarding them. They had to know, like, you know where you're trying to go, and you have a rough idea of what to expect. So that also contributed to my research in the country. And so, yeah, that was the process. I passed the interview now with the Ministry of Education, and we got submitted now to um, the Hungarian, the Hungarian side. And so we had another interview with now the university and the flight school, and then after that, they tell you now if you've passed and whether you'll be coming to Hungary or not. So that was the
Okay,
admission
so
process.
there is a collaboration between the Kenyan government and the Hungarian one, most probably, and in which they exchange talents. I think there is
Yes.
in every of the big
Mhm.
countries. Let's say it like this. But that's
Yeah.
quite interesting. Did they expect from you to speak the language when you started the university?
No, no. But part of the agreement of the scholarship was that we would learn the language for 2 semesters.
Mm-hmm.
So in my first year, in my in my fall and spring semester, I did have Hungarian classes, which was kind of like interesting because the goal was for us to have at least a basic understanding of the language in a way that we could express ourselves in our day to day. Because English Hungarians, a lot of them don't really speak English. Like they speak other European languages, but English isn't really actively spoken, especially in smaller cities. But the younger generation, like my peers, they knew English. But the older generation, who were like the store owners and your day-to-day professionals that you would have to interact with maybe at the bank or stuff like that, English was still a bit of a language. There was a language barrier. And so they tried to make us learn the language so that we could have at least of a basic understanding of our how to express ourselves when we're, if need be. Yeah.
Which makes sense. I mean, it's a way of respecting the place that you're studying in. So I
Yeah,
think
as
for
well.
at the end,
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
end, it makes sense. I know about the.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm coming from Romania, which is not that far away from Hungary. So I'm living also
Mm-hmm.
close to the border. I have friends and family in the meantime in Hungary, and I know the
Mm-hmm.
language. I'm able to understand the language, most of it, by growing not so far away from the border, but it's a hard language. And that's why I want to ask you, how was the first impression? Like you had that impression that never.
So the interesting part was I started learning Hungarian when I was in Kenya. So I didn't really know it was regarded as a hard language to me. It was just like I'm going to Hungary and I have time
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think I mentioned this before, but so this was in I applied in 2021
Mm-hmm.
and I had joined university in Kenya in January of 2021 and I only attended the first semester and
Mm-hmm.
I deferred, so I took a gap year. So I had when as I was handling the application, it was my main agenda. Like I wasn't really doing anything else on the side. And so after passing the interview phase, I had a lot of time to kill. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to Hungary. I hadn't even gotten like my acceptance yet. But I was just like, let me just keep myself busy. Let me learn a little bit about the language. And so as I was learning, I didn't really know it was regarded as as the hardest language for me. I was just on YouTube getting some videos. I also found this website that would teach you the language and also explain like a cultural thing about a cultural insight on their way of life. And so it was an interesting way. So generally, I was just interested and I was intrigued and I just kept on going. And I feel like that really became an important part of my experience because all throughout my language learning, I didn't struggle with it. But a lot of the people that I was studying with did say that it was hard. But because in my initial stages of my learning, I wasn't exposed to that idea, then to me it was an easy language. I found it quite similar to my to Swahili, which is our Kenyan language, because we also don't have pronouns and so we have to have the verb has to be switched for every pronoun that exists. So instead of being like she's eating, there's gonna be a version of it for all the different pronouns in their singular and so I found similarities in my language to Hungarian, and so learning it wasn't really something I struggled with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. I mean, you were lucky. I'm as lucky as you could be in this case because you could find similarities. I have to
Mm-hmm.
say, I thought English is your native language because your English is really good,
Oh,
and
thank you. It
I
is our
didn't even
official
dare to
language,
ask.
yeah.
Ah, okay,
Oh,
also sorry for the ignorance. I didn't know that.
no worries,
Um,
no worries, no
but
worries.
Hungarian is a hard language. So Hungarian, it's in the family of European languages, is quite strange because it's close to the Finnish language,
Oh,
the language in Finland, and it has nothing else, nothing to do with any other languages around it. It's kind of a strange situation with the Hungarian language. And of
mm-hmm.
course, if you are living close to a border or something, as I said, you understand it because you have friends, you have family, you have guys around you speaking the language and so on. But other
Yeah.
than that, it's quite difficult. But amazing that you spoke the language. I mean, that's as I said, that's for me the biggest shape of respect that you can have for a country where you're going to study or to live in. So you said you didn't have much expectation about Hungary. Was it Budapest?
Oh, no, no, no. I was studying in Debrecen. I was studying at the University of Debrecen, so it's the second largest city. It wasn't the capital, but I didn't really think much of it. Like, I was just like, okay, it's gonna be a city just like Budapest. But that's where the culture shock was. Because coming to Budapest, remember I said I stayed in Budapest for 2 weeks before I went to Debrecen. And so I had a very welcoming experience in Budapest. I didn't even feel homesick during the 2 weeks that I was there. Everyone was so friendly. I really liked the cosmopolitan nature of the city. Like, you could meet people from everywhere, and I really liked the buildings. The buildings were the art the I don't know if it's a Romanian architecture or what it is they have going on.
It's an Austro-Hungarian empire architecture. So it's a bit of a German influence as well.
Uh-huh.
So it's the former empire that was
Mm-hmm.
Austria, Hungary, and a part of Romania included, and that's why it's all kind of similar.
Uh-huh. So yeah, like I really liked the buildings. It was I felt very safe compared to back here in Nairobi, where we just have to be very alert. Pickpocketing is there and stuff like that in the big city. And so I liked walking. It was very walkable. So I liked walking around, seeing the city. It was quite big, so there was always something new that I didn't notice when I was taking the walk yesterday. So I had a very welcoming experience with regard to Budapest. But now I started struggling the moment that I went to Debrecen. And I still struggled with that till today. Like, I feel like I've not really adjusted. Yeah, I really like the big city life. And so Debrecen is more of like a cozy city, very small. People know each other, like not really as diverse as well as as Budapest.
It's the coziness, the goods and the bads of a small city. So it's the coziness, like you have the
Yeah.
feeling that everyone knows each other, which in fact is not
Mm-hmm.
the case, but you still have the feeling that everyone knows each other. And I think also the English language is not so met
Yeah.
as it's not as
Yeah.
often met as it was in Budapest, I do guess.
Yeah.
So you had the demo version, you had Budapest, then you had the, let's say, the hardcore version,
Mm-hmm.
which was Debrecen. What was
Yeah.
what were the first impressions? So you said Budapest, like, do you like it? You felt safe. You didn't feel unsafe. It's walkable, everything, which is amazing in Europe generally. I think this is a crazy benefit that Europe has, that everything is walkable.
Yeah.
Um, but what was the first impression when you arrived in Debrecen? What did you said? Okay, I have to go out of this, or uh,
Mm, I think the first thing that just made me feel so alone was when I was in Budapest, the African community was also very strong. If you're walking on the street and someone saw you, they would say hi, just be like, "Hi, how are you? Like, where are you from?" Even if you weren't from their country, like you would still feel the openness towards getting to know you or just validating your presence. But when I got to Debrecen, when I just got there, I saw an African, and I was just about to like say hi and like meet it with the same energy that I was getting from Budapest. But it was just a blank stare. Like, they even looked away. And I was like, um, is it me? Did you just not say hi because it's just me? But then realizing that that was the day to day, like people were not as friendly as and open to interactions. People were not as friendly and as open to interactions compared to Budapest. And so I feel like when you're traveling from your home country and you're settling into a new environment, to me personally, I think a welcoming a welcoming community really goes a long way. And so I think that was just the beginning of like the downward spiral in terms of my experience, because it's really hard to even speak about what you're struggling with and to hear what someone else has to say. Or because it's like you feel like you don't you don't really have anyone to talk to even about anything. It could be food, something as little as food, as mundane as food, or even something big as where to get certain things. So I feel like that was the thing that I struggled with. It was really hard to build community within the city. Yeah. Until today, I feel like I do have a lot of friends. A majority of my community is in Budapest as opposed to Debrecen, despite the fact that that's been my student city.
Were you
That was a
traveling for the weekends to Budapest?
Yes, I even moved there for like a year at some point. Yeah, so I used to travel there for the weekends. During summers, I would be on the first summers, winters, anytime that I wasn't in school and I didn't have any academic obligation, I was in Budapest. To the point where a lot of people thought that I was studying there until I'd be like, no, 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 I'm from Debrecen. I'm just here for the holidays or just for the weekend or that type of. Yeah, and the city also had more things to do. So if you were bored, you could easily entertain yourself through the varieties that they had, as opposed to Debrecen, which was relatively smaller. So that was the impression that I had in Debrecen that just made me feel very lonely, actually. Yeah.
You mentioned that you moved also from Debrecen. How was the apartment finding process generally in Budapest and in Debrecen?
I think that was also a culture shock when I got to Debrecen because we don't really use Facebook in Kenya. And so when I got there, they were like, if you want to get a house, you have to be on Facebook. Like, you need to get on Facebook, start looking for houses. And that I was like, oh, okay. So the house hunting process was quite brutal, I will confess. Because we didn't have the dorms didn't have enough rooms for all international students. So when I got to Debrecen, I had 5 days. I had 5 days to at a stay in a hotel, after which I would need to figure myself out. So because a lot of students were also arriving, some of them were looking for roommates and stuff like that. So that's how I ended up getting a house. Like, I just got
Hmm.
someone and we got a house. But now by the time I was moving to Budapest, I'd gone to the city quite frequently, so I'd made some friends. And so we decided to get a house together. And it was an easier process getting a house there as opposed there. And then the other thing is Debrecen is smaller, so the available houses are quite fewer than in Budapest. So the scarcity and the demand was way more than what was available. And so getting a house in Debrecen was a bit of a more stressful experience as opposed to Budapest. But I think it was just a matter of adjusting, because how we look for houses here in Kenya is very different from how we look for houses there. And so in the beginning it was hard, but with time you get people and you guys want to move together, so it's easier to find an apartment, and you also get to understand yourself more and understand what type of house would cater to you. And so the house hunting experience becomes easier as you stay there more. Yeah.
Hmm. How is it? I'm I don't know how is the cost of living in Kenya. I don't know. I have the information, but how is it in the price difference? Where we talk about the rent price in Budapest or in Debrecen, or if we talk about the rent price in Nairobi.
Mm, hmm. I used to think Kenya was, with regard to rent, I believe that rent is actually more expensive in Hungary as compared to here in Nairobi. And so at some point I was also reflecting on what I was paying in rent, and I was like, wait, if I was living in Nairobi, I feel like I would be living in a penthouse with this price in a really, really nice neighborhood. So, with regard to rent, rent is actually higher in Hungary as opposed to Nairobi. But the crazy part was, as the years went by, rent got higher in Debrecen than Budapest.
Most probably because of this Wizard
Mm,
university. Most probably that
mhm,
has to be because if they market it right, the fact that
mhm,
they want to hire a lot of people, I think
mhm,
that's just easy. And most probably the market. As far as I know, there are in Debrecen some things happening. So was first this Wizard Academy, then
mhm,
second there is a Chinese factory
mhm,
producing batteries for
mhm,
electrical cars that they open there
mhm,
or they want to open there. And
mhm,
there is a lot of industry happening at the moment. And Debrecen, it's actually we go with it to the political front, but Debrecen is actually or was the place that the prime minister of Hungary supported a lot because he lost Budapest as a political power, and then he moved all his money
to
towards
Debrecen.
Debrecen, and that's why there was this development of Debrecen in this way. But
Mhm,
it's interesting. It's interesting as well. I mean, the fact that Budapest it could be on the same level as Nairobi, because I would say the thing is always we have to think about capitals as big cities, and you have a lot of people trying to live there, and it's independent of its embassies, of its people being there with business and so on. We talk about capitals, but if we talk about Debrecen, and if you think that it could be that it was more expensive than the capital, I think that's quite hard.
mhm.
How do you find the cost of living in Hungary, Michelle? So, besides the rent, which yeah, it was like you said, it was more people searching for resident apartments available. But how do you think that the cost of living is in Hungary?
I think relative to, okay, I'll start with when I got there versus as time progressed.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got there, it was before the harsh inflation, so it was a bit affordable. Um, but as time went by, my parents really had to chip in and cater to because we did get an allowance through the scholarship, but over the years, it just became quite insignificant in terms of sustaining you. And so a lot of people were doing part-time jobs. And for me, my parents really had to send me an allowance to supplement that. And so, but now when I would travel to other countries, I felt like the cost of living there was way, way, way higher as opposed to Hungary. And one thing that I noticed was that there were a lot of student job opportunities in Hungary. And so if I would compare the student lifestyle in Hungary, in Budapest, compared to other cities, I felt like the students in Hungary were really having the time of their life. They had a lot of disposable income. And so they had a lot of disposable income. And so in that sense, the cost of living was high, but then money was really circulating in the economy, and there were a lot of opportunities for you to work part-time in alongside to your
Mm-hmm.
studies. So that kind of bridged the gap with the cost of living. Because I think the difference now between now Hungary and Kenya is the cost of living, the money doesn't really circulate as much in in Kenya, like throughout the whole economy. Like it circulates amongst a certain class, and then the lower just really struggle to get even the slightest amount. But in terms of cost of living, I feel like now that I've been in Kenya for about 2 months now, if I was to live the same life that I was living in Hungary with my student experience, it would cost me way more. Like I would need a lot of money. I would actually need to be employed. But in Hungary, I could be able to do that with my allowance and without really a salary. So I feel like in terms of living the same life that I was living there, it would cost me a lot more money here in Kenya. I feel like going out and stuff like that costs more here,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to there. But in terms of comparing my student experience in Hungary compared to other students in other countries, I feel like students there really were having the time of their life in terms of their disposable income and what they could buy and their day to day in terms of traveling and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So, uh, I think, and I think that's the example that you've made. It's actually the right one. So if you
Mm-hmm.
talk about the cost of living, I always like to talk about the share of cost of living. And like you said, to have the same life, what would it cost
Mm-hmm.
in Kenya? What it cost in Budapest? But I think that's interesting that they usually the student time is all the time that we know when we didn't have money and we had a lot of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like like you said that if it's that the case, I think that's amazing. You mentioned your parents, Michelle, and I didn't ask you before because I had the feeling they were really supportive with you with the move towards Hungary. But like when they have seen okay, it's getting harder and harder. When you're saying okay, we have to chip in, we have to send you money to get along. You're not really happy with
Mm-hmm.
the environment in Debrecen, so they have seen that you are. I would say I don't know how much you told them,
Mm-hmm.
but they will find now at least out.
Mm-hmm.
But how much have you told them about your let's say struggles in there? Were they supportive? Because I think you developed, not you developed, but you had a kind of a homesickness in the meantime to say, okay, I don't know, I could have lived a better life in my home. I could have had a nice family and friends around me and so on. And I think it's nothing worse for a parent than to see their kids suffering. The
Yeah.
question is, how did they handle this?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as soon as I got to Hungary, as soon as I got to Debrecen, that's when I started struggling with my health because I got diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia. And it was a
Oh,
problem with the piloting course because they were telling me your hemoglobin levels are actually quite low. We don't think that you're going to stay in the program. Like you might have to change your major. And so at that point, and my parents were like, maybe you should consider coming back home. Like maybe you should consider coming back home altogether. Additionally, remember when I told you I had deferred while I was in Kenya, so I wasn't really studying before I came. And when I got here, in my head, I thought I was coming to do a piloting program. But when I got here, they told me it's a double major. So you have to study the piloting and the aviation engineering simultaneously. So you're going to be going to the university on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for your engineering classes. And then on Thursday and Friday, you're going to go to the flight school for your flight training classes. And that was quite intensive for me coming from zero academic experience to now a fully fledged dual major. And so I started struggling. And I remember I was talking to my parents and they were like, you should come home. We really think you should come home. But I feel like I was very resilient and I was really trying to stay. Like I was really trying to, because in my head, I was remembering the aeronautical engineering that was not really what I had anticipated it to be versus this thing that I've come all the way. I'm in Hungary. I'm looking at other majors that they're telling me I could consider, and I'm not really seeing anything that fits to what I want to do. And so I was in between like a rock and a hard place, and to a point where it resulted in conflict between my parents and I, because to them they didn't want to see me struggle. They didn't really want to see me suffer, and so they were like, "You need to come home." To a point where they tried to reach out to school to tell them to just release me and let me come home. And so, and meanwhile, I was there trying to talk to whoever I could talk to at the flight school to explain to them that I also didn't know what was going on because I didn't really have, before I came, I did a medical check and I was fine. So getting there and being diagnosed with that, I was also in denial. I was like, wait, but there has to be a problem. Like I'm fine. Like I don't have any, in terms of in with regards to my health, I was okay. But on paper, I was not okay. So trying to work with them, even if I could have to do frequent checkups and like renew my medicals more frequently than the others, just so I could stay in the program. And so, yeah, at the beginning, they were like, no. But then at some point, my mom did come to visit me in Hungary. And so she got to see like what life was like there. And even after that, like they were even more supportive about what I really needed to be able to have a comfortable stay. Because my dad was telling me, he kept on affirming to me throughout my study experience, he was like, I don't want you to stress about anything. I don't want you to have anxiety about money. I don't want you to feel like you don't have enough for this. So I'm ready to support you through whatever it is you're going through. And even sometimes I feel like it would get overwhelming, and I'd just be like, I just have a week. Can I please come home? Like I just want to come home. I'm feeling a bit emotionally overwhelmed, and I want to be on the next flight to Nairobi. And they would always show up to me in that regard. So it was difficult in the beginning because for them they were like, if you're struggling, just come back home. But then after the years, they were more of, okay, so how can we support you through this situation? Because you've decided that this is something that you really want to pursue. What are the areas that you feel you need our help in, and how can we show up for you in a way that you're comfortable throughout your study period? Yeah.
That's really nice. So basically, they did the right thing. They did try to get you home, to get you out of the suffering when they see you're suffering, but also
Mm-hmm.
supported you when you said, "Okay, I want to stay." But what was your? You said that it was hard to make connections in Debrecen, and I think that's also part of the support group, right? Because the support group
Yeah.
in these hard times is also the social community that you have around you. What was your
Mm-hmm.
what was your base for the resilience?
Okay. I feel
How did
like,
you find the power to move on?
um, hmm. That's okay. Let me think. Let me think. Okay, I think it's a personality thing. I'm the type of person who I will think through, take the time to think through what I want, and then reverse engineer a community or an environment that would cater to that. You get? So, I had to forego certain things, like understanding, okay, now I'm in Hungary, and the fact when I was in Kenya, I was raised by very strict parents. So I never used to go out until I came to Hungary. Like I had zero social skills because I was just at school. And when I was at school, I was studying. And when I wasn't studying, I was back home in the house. Yeah. So, because my even when I was joining university, my dad was like, "You're not gonna stay in the dorm. No, I'm gonna get you a car and you're gonna drive to school and come back." So, because of that, I had zero social skills. I didn't know how to start conversation. I didn't know how to make friends. I didn't know how to I didn't know much. So even in my first year, I think my friends were just my classmates. Like I was friends with people courtesy of being in the same situation or being in the same immediate environment with them. But being able to just talk to someone random and just so at the beginning I was friends with Kenyans because okay, we meet and we're like, oh, we're both from Kenya, so let's talk with my classmates because oh yeah, we're in the same class, we see each other almost every day and people that I would meet when I would now go out on the weekends. So my circle was restricted to that, and in the beginning, I was I was okay with that. I was okay with that because I was like, okay, so I need to figure out how to feel at home, and this is what's available to me right now. So I'm gonna try and work with that. But then over the years, as I stayed there and I developed social skills. Like I learned how to now interact with people, how to start communication, how to communicate, how to build relationships and foster long-term friendships. It became easier. And so, like I said, for me, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna be in Hungary for the next couple of years. What can I do to make sure that I have a bit of a lovely experience here? So at the time when I was struggling with my parents and we weren't really getting along and we didn't talk for some time, so I had to work. So I started working so I could sustain myself. And in the process I made some friends. And then after work, now work was the main way that I got to interact with people. And then I started doing now my own things. I started DJing, and that now became another way that I could network with people. And so it was something that I was really keen on on I was really keen on building a reliable community. And so as time went by, many opportunities presented themselves on how I could achieve or attain that. And so that's how I think community is what how do I say it? It played a crucial role in how long I stayed, in how, not how long I stayed, but how worthwhile my experience there was. Yeah, let me say it that way. Yeah, because now you have someone who you can express yourself to, who can tell you this and that about something that you're struggling with, or you don't know where to buy this. Have you tried this and this and this? Or you're not feeling well. I feel like this place is the best place to go in terms of how well they handle international students. So yeah, yeah,
I think one of the most important part that we need in our life is social interactions, and I think
yeah,
I love your honesty when you said, okay, I had no social skills, even though I know it was not completely true. I mean, it was hard to make connection because you didn't know how to, but I think that's something we can all learn. But I think
yeah,
we get some endorphins from this, or some dopamine from the social interactions that you had, and sometimes you just need an objective opinion, because if you go and ask your parents what should I do, they will always say, I come home because it's the easy thing, right? I'm here, I can support you,
yeah,
is the
yeah,
easy
yeah,
thing. But
yeah,
if you have someone from outside, you need an objective opinion. You need someone to tell you, you can you push it through now, because if you push it
yeah,
through now, you'll
yeah,
end up stronger on the other side. And I think that's
yeah.
the benefit of the community. That's why I ask you, what was the power behind your resilience? Because I'm pretty sure that
Mm-hmm.
even though you look like a strong person, I'm pretty sure that this is hard to do alone on your own. Like, it's really hard to
Yeah.
struggle on your own, and that's why the community is really helping behind you. Now I have to ask, what did you manage to end up in piloting, or did you manage to end up in engineering? Because before I move on, you really spiked up my curiosity now to ask.
Mm-hmm. So, I had to do them together. The requirement of the school was that
Mm-hmm,
you couldn't do piloting alone. You had to do it with the
mm-hmm,
aviation engineering. So I just pushed through and pushed through and pushed through. But throughout my study experience, I developed a passion for finance, investment banking, and asset management, to be specific. So as we speak now, which we will talk about that later, I'm considering I'm considering transferring to a flight school that's gonna enable me to continue with my flight training to completion based off of where I am currently, and be able to pursue my investment banking and asset management. Because I think um coming back home, just now when I came for my break right now, I was thinking through it and I was just like, I don't think I just want to, because I kept, while I was in Hungary, I was just like, okay, I still have like a year left. I'll be fine. Like, I can push through this. I can push through this. But I really saw how it's a bit of a disservice, because I feel like if you're in a field where you're not really passionate, it's really hard for you to innovate. It's really hard for you to do research. It's really hard for you to see how you want to contribute to society using what you've learned. And I just didn't want to keep sitting in class and just doing what I'm told, like doing assignments just for the sake of doing them. I think coming back home, and during the time that I've been here, like, I've been active in my finance interests. And so seeing how I don't even have a degree in this, I don't really have a lot of experience in this, but I'm still able to create a certain amount of impact. And it's able, like, I'm capable of like having conversations on what the future could look like for certain fields, what we could do. And I find that very interesting, and I feel like I want to continue with that. And to a point where I've really been questioning whether I want to go back and complete, or just find a way to have these two work together. Because I think being in Hungary, I had to work with what I was given. It was piloting and aviation engineering. You have to do them together. But now coming back home and seeing the options I have in terms of me being able to do the two things that I love, despite the fact that they're very far from each other to a certain extent, I think that has been an experience that has made me that has made me question everything that I was settling for before. And now it's okay, so this is the decision that I've made, and how do I move forward with this? And the crazy part is, my university wants to discontinue their participation in the program. So a lot of students that are enrolled at the moment are being told to either change their majors into something different or transfer to a different university. So I don't know. There's just a bunch of stuff going on. It's a bit messy, but I think when you have a certain level of clarity in terms of what you want to do, it becomes very easy for you to handle such a situation very confidently. Because if you understand that you're very passionate about aviation, this is the path that you want to follow, these are the requirements that you're gonna need, then it's easy for you to say, okay, based off of these offers that you've given me, this is what's gonna cater to me more. And so, yeah.
Um, so I have two things. Like this change of the university. This is something so typical, unfortunately, for the Eastern European countries, because we don't manage to build a long-term plan, and this is so bad. And that's why when you
Oh,
told me about this plan of hiring 1,000 women pilots, I think someone just make a brain fart. I'm sorry for using that word, but
mm-mm.
like you said, yeah, we don't have women. Yeah, let's hire 1,000. Well, and that's it. Um, and at the end, the problem is that when you don't keep steady, when you don't make a strategy or plan for the next 10 years, I think it's really hard to build in something like this. And the second thing that I want to say, Michelle, I think that's really important, to find the piece that you love, to find the thing that you do out of pleasure. I don't
Yeah.
think that there is an ideal thing, or there is an ideal job that somebody's giving you for nothing. I think you have to work to find that out. So I don't think that
Mhm.
something like this is coming out of the sun. And I think at the end that's the right thing. You have to struggle. You have to go through hard times to find the thing that you're passionate about. And at the end, don't stick to a domain. Just go wherever the flow of happiness is carrying you, because the happiness is the most important thing that we can have in our life.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, what was the? I'm coming now to the culture shock. What was the? You said the apartment was the biggest culture shock. What was the
Mhm,
impression
mhm,
of the food, Michelle? Because I think you come from a completely different culture. I had the honor, and I have to say I had the honor. There is in Germany, where I'm living at the moment. There is an adventure park which is called Phantasialand, and they have an Africa. It's a long story, but I will come to the topic that you understand.
mhm, mhm.
Uh, they have an Africa hotel, a Africa themed hotel, and inside that they have an African restaurant where you can have. They have
Uh-huh.
buffet from certain countries in Africa, and it's an amazing
Mhm.
experience. But it's a completely different world than everything that I know from Europe. That's why I'm saying that I'm pretty sure that it was not easy, the food accommodation. So how was it?
Um, I think um what made it even more difficult was the food transition. What made it more difficult was I didn't psychologically switch. So when I got there, I still wanted to cook Kenyan food, and I would go to the store and I would constantly try to find Kenyan, like look for ingredients that I know
Ingredients.
that, okay, this is what we use back home for this. And because of the language barrier, now I would have to constantly have my phone with my Google Translate trying to figure out, okay, what is this? And what does it what do they use it for? Because it looks like what we use back home is for this, but here I don't think they cook that. So what do you get? So mentally I struggled with the switch, and it took me some time to now, okay, be like, okay, I can't keep struggling every time I have to cook. I'm busy trying to think of this and this and this. So now I went to the store and I bought Hungarian cookbooks, and I was like, I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna read, and I'm gonna learn what they cook here. I want to learn what they use this for. I want to learn what they use this for. So that didn't
Now
really
I'm more
go.
curious. Now I'm more curious.
Yeah, so I was determined. I was determined. I was like, okay, so I can't find the ingredients to cook back home. Let me learn how to use the ingredients here. I go, I got the cookbooks. I came home. I used to try and try and try. And my oh my, I feel like when you're a student, you don't really have that much time to dedicate to cooking. So that also ended up being a flop. And so around that time, I started being very interested in other cuisines because I was like, okay, if I can cook one, if I can cook about 2 dishes or 3 dishes that are Kenyan with what's available, and I meet my friend who's from Nigeria, for example, and they're able to cook this particular dishes with what's available, and I meet my friend from like Japan who's able to like cook this dish with what's available, then at the end of the day, I can be able to survive this. Yeah, so throughout my stay, I was eating Turkish stuff, Thai stuff, Japanese stuff. Like I just learned to create a symphony in terms of what was available, what they were doing, and how I could incorporate it into my meal prep. So that was really fun. That made the food experience fun.
But do you have a Hungarian dish that you learned to like, or that you get to like when you're there, or you didn't get any of the Hungarian dishes?
There's certain things that they had that I really, really liked. One was it was not really a meal, but it was like a chimney cake. They make it, I don't know if you've seen
Chimney
it
cake.
before.
Yes.
Yeah, I really, really like
Kürtöskolak.
that. It was, yeah, yeah,
Kürtöskolak.
yeah. It was my comfort food. When I'd feel like I'm low, I'd just be like, okay, let me take a walk and find a vendor and buy some of that. I really liked their pancakes as well. There was a way that they would cook it with meat. It was called like a hortobaj pancake. So
Mm-hmm.
it was really, I really enjoyed that. And about their food, hmm, I don't know. In terms of like a whole meal, I don't think their langosh I really liked. The that I had one vendor from whom I only trusted to make it the way with some African sauce that I really liked. So yeah, I feel like those were a few of their aspects of their cuisine that I really liked. But throughout my stay, with regard to food, I really like going out to eat, and so I became very interested in trying out a number of restaurants. And I think I tried about throughout my whole stay, like from the 3 years that I was there, I think I tried about 200 of their restaurants. And in that process, I got to try a lot of their food. And so I had a few things which, when I would see on the menu, I would be like, okay, I'm definitely get that. I'm getting that. They cooked their duck in a certain way. I really liked
Mm-hmm.
it. So I never had duck meat before, but it was really popular there. So that was they used to do duck meat, red cabbage, and mashed potatoes as a meal, and I really, really like that. And yeah, so the fish as well, but I felt like the fish was imported, but I liked how they
Yeah, the
prepared the
fish.
fish.
The
Yeah,
the fish
yeah.
most important, but the cabbage mashed potato duck recipe, as far as I know, is Austrian. So at least it has an Austrian
Oh,
influence.
uh-huh, uh-huh,
I
uh-huh.
might be wrong as well, but as far as I know, it has an Austrian influence.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
But Kurtoshkolak is something that I love as well, and
mhm, mhm.
there
It's
is a
really
way in
good.
which you can cook it, and I don't know if you know that, but there is a way in which you can cook it, and you made it full with marshmallows.
Without
No, no. So you
without
you
the.
do you make that round thing, and when it's already
Mhm,
cooked, you put the fresh. So the marshmallows are in fact it's egg white with sugar. That's the
mhm,
what's inside marshmallows, and you put
mhm.
that egg white with sugar inside that
And
and
then,
you eat it together.
mhm.
Oh my
It
God,
tastes
I love
it tastes
food.
good. That
It
sounds
tastes
good. That
amazing.
sounds like it would be really nice.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Um, did you? So I always had the feeling. So first of all, the one typical thing from Hungarian cuisine is paprika. So paprika. I'm still importing paprika. So my wife's brother is living in Hungary, and every time
Mm-hmm.
we need paprika, they are helping us. Thank you on this with this case because it's amazing. But did you have the feeling that they are using paprika in all the food, even though it's amazing, but still they are using paprika in every food?
Yeah, I feel like in the beginning I was like, wait, that's not even a spice that we take seriously in Kenya. But by the time I was leaving, I was putting paprika in everything as well. Like back home, I'm cooking anything. I'm just like, what's the paprika? We need to have paprika. Like
Like like
so,
paprika is missing. Yeah.
yeah, just add some. Yeah, in everything.
So the wife of my wife's brother, that was complicated. She has an aunt who's making this paprika by hand. So getting the paprika, so the thing getting dried, and then mashing them with the machine and so on.
Mm-hmm.
The taste of this, it's
It's
it's on
quite
a
good.
different level. But paprika is amazing. Um, you said you visited a lot of restaurants, Michelle. Did you
Yes.
have a local place that you learn to love and to like, to have like a local comfort place beside the Kurtoskolak, like to have a place to say, okay, I love that place and I think I could use a place like this in mine home.
Um, hmm. Not not really. Okay, so my curiosity is really a core part of my personality, and because of that, I always wanted to have something new. I always wanted to have something new. Apart from the Hungarian dishes that I really liked, for those ones, I had identified specific places that I really liked to go to get them. But in terms of the restaurants that I tried, um, I don't think I used to tell my friends I don't want to go to the same restaurant again. Like when I go there, I really try to order in a way that I get the best experience based off of what I like to eat. So I'd look at their menu and be like, okay, so this is something that they have that's quite unique. I want to have this. And so I'd go to a different place and I'd be like, okay, so based off of what I've seen they have. So in that case, I really was more particularly interested in sampling a lot of options that I could get as opposed to having one that became my favorite. And like I said, I never used to go out when I was in Kenya. So being there and I was like, oh, I can try Chinese today. I can have American tomorrow. I can have Thai today. I can have, so to me, I was caught up in the whole, I want to have something new today. I want to go here. I want to go there. Yeah. But in terms of
But
my favorite, yeah, I had a
please,
few
please
local
go on.
places that I like to go. Yeah.
Um, but I'm not talking about only restaurants. Do you had like a favorite coffee place, like a favorite coffee place that you felt it was especially cozy and nice that you want to mention?
Mm, that's a hard one.
Okay.
No. I okay, so the thing is, okay, in Debrecen, there was this one particular cafe. It was called Greenwood Cafe. And but when I checked, when I was scrolling through my pictures and seeing the place, and I checked it, I saw that it's temporarily closed.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's available. But I really like the interior. They had a lot of like plants going on and water kind of decor, that type of decor. And I'm into spaces that have a bit of nature in them. And so I really liked the place and I liked the food. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was like my one of my favorite cafes in Debrecen. And
Mm-hmm.
for Budapest, I would have to think because there's a lot of options to pick from. But yeah, and also my how do I say it? My eating preferences changed. When I was trying out restaurants before, I used to go to cafes, but then as I stayed there, I was like, okay, no, I want a good place for dinner. I want a good place for lunch. I want to see what their full meal. I was now looking more at just the environment and more of what they had to offer. But in terms of
So
like
the
my favorite
special
eatery,
experiences.
yeah.
What do you think there is something about the Hungarian culture that people should know and you think that nobody knows about? I think it's a hard one because you said that you didn't know about a lot of the Hungarian culture before coming in. But what do you think it's something that you find out in Hungary that is not so well known about Hungary?
hmm I think I would say that I don't know if this was just my perspective, but I found Hungarians very easygoing.
Hmm.
I didn't because when I was coming, I remember when I was having my interview at the Ministry of Education here, they were like, "Oh, did you know that Hungary has the highest number of Nobel Prize winners?" And so I had this whole imagination of them being very academically like academically invested, and also seeing the whole inventions. Because when we started learning the language, he told us some of the things that Hungarians had invested. So to me, I was like, oh, okay, these people must be, they love to study, they love this, they love that. But the more I kept on meeting Hungarians and having conversations, I was like, you are actually very easygoing. Like these people are so chill, not very, how do I say it? You know how Americans are constantly trying to be the first to like develop something? They're constantly like they're very ambitious, they're very aggressive with opportunities. But I feel like when I was in Hungary and also coming from Kenya, where we have a very rigorous hustle culture, like people are hustling intensively every day, people are trying to make money. But in Hungary, I feel like these people were very easygoing, like too easygoing sometimes. I was like, I don't know if, because even when I went to Austria and I was seeing how I was being handled at stores and stuff like that, I felt like Hungarians had a certain level of nonchalance that, in my opinion, I feel like they have a certain level of nonchalance, and to them, situations are really not that deep. Like you would go, I feel like I would go to a store and sometimes I would ask, okay, so do you guys have this particular product, or does this product that you have? And the person wouldn't even know. And I was like, um, I'm confused. But I found it I interact I like I felt I was in such situations quite frequently to a point where I was just like, no, I think this is generally just a Hungarian thing. And they were very family oriented. Because to me, I would always ask, even my instructors at school, like, why aren't you keen on pursuing opportunities elsewhere? Like, you have a European passport, you can easily get um aviation opportunities in so many airlines all around the world. They'd be like, no, my family is kind of important to me, and I'm not really keen on leaving the country because of that. And so I was like, oh, okay, so you guys are actually very family oriented and not really, I don't know how to say it. Like, they're not over ambitious. Like, they're very content. They're very content and they're very chill and they're very easygoing with their life experiences. Like, they just, they're okay. They want to have they've embraced simplicity to a certain extent. And so I think that was something that I found very I haven't really seen people talk about it other places, and I've had to experience that courtesy of being in Hungary. Because another way to highlight it is when you meet an average African, they're working towards driving a G-Wagon, like they want to have a business, like they want to be top of their country in terms of that. But every time I'd have conversations with them, they were very simple with what they wanted to get out of life. And so I was like, oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah.
Do you think it's a because I want to come back to a bit to what you said about the Americans. So the Americans, I think it's always depending on the state in which you are. I've had the chance to be there a few times due to my work a few
Mm-hmm.
times and also private a few times. And I have to say that if you go in the southern part of the countries, they are so chillaxed. It's like you rarely. So I was in North Carolina and South Carolina. Oh my God, those people are so enjoying life that you cannot imagine. So they are
Uh-huh.
relaxed. They are easygoing. They have no problem, no issues, no nothing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think in most of the cases, this fight, this for overachievement, I think it's something to do with status from my point of view. And I think at the end, it's just a question of, I think Navalny said in his book that if you are poor and everyone around you is poor, then it's okay. But if you are poor and the guys around you are rich, it's not so nice
Mm-hmm.
because it's increasing the pressure for you. And I
Yeah.
think it could be that the fact that they are easygoing, it's only affected when they say, okay, life is how it is. We are close to a family. We are enjoying the moments that we have, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, and we are here. But I have to say, not in every parts of the countries are so easygoing. So I have my personal experience where I know people who are really hard working and pushing, and I think it's just the part of Hungary that you get to know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your it was different. Yeah. Have you celebrated holidays or something there? Were you ever been there for Christmas or you were always traveling home?
No, no, no. I was there for a bunch of Christmases. A bunch of, actually, this is my first Christmas in Kenya. In terms of
Oh.
Christmas, I was always in Hungary. And so, I spent it with friends most of the time. Like,
Hmm.
um, different people were organizing maybe like a Christmas dinner, either outside or as a small community type of get together. So I was for my Christmas, only my first I spent it alone, but the other two I was with friends.
That's nice. I Christmas alone, quite hard. So alone and far away, quite hard. But yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. And Christmas usually when you're an expat, it's hard. Holidays are hard because it's hard to find people around you that don't have families and so on. So I think it's quite nice that you get to spend it with friends. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Talking about now going back to Kenya, did you? How should I say this? What do people in Kenya know about Hungary? So what did they ask you about Hungary when you were back home?
They asked me about the language. They're very curious to know how it sounds. So I was like, can you say something? Like, I just want to know how it sounds. Um, what else do they ask? They ask about the food. I remember my mom really wanted to try um a particular type of flour that they have in Hungary that we used to use to make a certain dish that we have back home. So they always ask about the food. And then what else do they ask? They ask about jobs. They ask about
Hmm.
what the work environment is like there. And yeah, with regard specifically with regard to the work environment, I think I felt that when I forgot to mention that when we were talking about the easygoing culture of Hungarians, even in work, like I feel like that was something that I came to actually like because it created a very free environment in the workspace. Like you don't feel like you constantly have to prove yourself and your relevance and that type of stuff. It's more of no, like you're part of the family, like you just feel at ease and you're able to execute with a certain level of confidence in yourself. You don't second guess yourself as much. You don't second guess your relevance as much. So, yeah, they ask about the work environment. And I feel like it's very different as compared to the work environment here at home. Yeah.
How did living abroad change you, Michelle?
I think the first thing that I learned was to be very intentional, to be very, very intentional with everything that I do in terms of this is what I'm okay, now I'll give an example. So when I joined University of Debrecen and I was studying engineering and I would have a conversation or two with the Hungarian students, like I would see how when you see someone in this but in these STEM fields, most of the times they've had that interest over a long time and it's been something that they've been building on throughout their whole academic experience. Because unfortunately for us in Kenya, when you finish high school and you do really well, people expect you to be in these fields. It's not really, do you like it? It's more of people that are smart do engineering, people that are smart do medicine, people that are smart do you get? And so,
Like a social pressure, you get a social
coming,
pressure to go into that direction.
yeah, 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 yeah. So being on this other side and seeing how no, for them it's more of I have an interest in this and I really want to continue to learn this and I want so it was really eye-opening and so because of that I think I really started to reflect on what I was doing and why I was doing it. And so I really learned a lot of intentional decisions in terms of looking at what I'm interested in, how I want to grow it, and the kind of spaces that I want to be in with regards to that. So that was something that I learned, even to the point where even as we speak now, I'm able to tell you that after looking at this environment and seeing these opportunities, I feel like they don't really cater to my goal. And so I feel like I'm leaning more towards putting myself in a space. So it's not just taking what's handed to me, but more of understanding how relevant it is to what I'm working towards and whether it is something that I want to pursue. I think that was the first thing. The second thing is I really learned how to take care of myself because, like I said, coming back here, my parents were the decision makers for me, and they had a great influence in terms of what I was doing. But then coming there and the health condition, like I had to learn how to be on top of my nutrition. Like I had to know, am I eating well? How is my condition faring? Going to the hematologist, being able to express myself and handle that. Also, even with school, being able to express myself when I wasn't comfortable, like I learned how to take care of myself and make sure that I was trusting myself to make good decisions and to make decisions that were in line with what I wanted for myself and what I needed to do even for school. So learning to take care of myself, I think it's part of the whole process of being abroad, because now it's like you're on your own. You're in charge of of the type of people that you become friends with. You're in charge of your whole academic experience. Like when you go to class, whether you understand or not, how you pass your exam, it kind of becomes now you take charge of that, and you need to learn to trust yourself enough to be able to express whatever it is you're feeling or whatever it is you're going through, and learning how to handle that. So that's something that I feel like I got through my experience there, and I'm very, very grateful for. Yeah.
That sounded like a lot of personal growth, and also career oriented growth, I would say, because
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I think the moment in which you discover yourself is the moment when you live alone. When you move out of the parents' house and you realize that life is not as
mm-hmm.
funny as it was, that you have to pay for water and gas and electricity, and the invoices are coming and are getting on top of you, and you have to cook
Yeah,
for
yeah.
yourself and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hard moment when you realize, okay, so this is life. This is how life is. Um,
Yeah.
was that the moment when you realized that you are a grown up already?
I think something happened to me. Let me try and remember what particularly it was. But I think in that moment, I was like, I can't keep on going back. Like, I can't keep on ringing my parents. To a certain point, I need to be able to handle the situation. Do you get, like, I'm trying to remember what it was, but I remember just being in a situation and being like, yeah, actually, I think as an adult, I can be able to handle this. It might not be as easy as calling them and having them facilitate everything. But for me, it was like, okay, I'm in this particular situation. How can I handle it based off of what I know and the resources that I have? And how do I make sure that I'm not in this kind of trouble again? And so I think at that moment is when my problem solving lobe just started to develop. And now it felt like I was I was now I could now handle situations, because I feel like after you take the first situation and you handle it, the next time you're in a situation, you're more of like, okay, so what do I have? And based off of what I know, how can I solve this? And also asking myself, I might not have the resources, but who can I partner with to solve this situation? Or who do I need to call? And what, it's not just calling you and being like, this is what has happened, what do I do? But it's more of, this is what has happened and this is what I think I'm capable of doing. Could you chip in on this particular part? Do you get what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like
Yeah.
it also goes hand in hand with the part that I told you about learning to trust yourself and being very confident in your ability to show up for yourself as well. And I think, yeah,
I
that
think
was when I did.
the most important thing is what you said, problem solving builds problem solving. So as soon as you have success,
Mm-hmm.
you move on. Unfortunately, nobody's talking about the fail, and I think that we should talk about the fail more often, and we should talk about the everything that we fail on is the things that are moving us, helping us move on, and helping us learn from
Yeah,
the things we fail on.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
never hear a book written about a failed a company, but you always hear at least read the book of how this was amazing and it was the one idea that sparkled the world, but nobody's talking about failed 100 ideas that didn't work. So, but I think this is what makes us grow up. The problems are making us grow up. The issues that we manage to solve make us grow up, and the struggle, actually the struggle make you move on. And when you realize I have
Yeah.
to come out of this situation by myself, and even like you said, even if I don't know how to come out by myself, I know someone that can
Mhm.
help me exactly in this situation.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
did your perspective um, about your home country change because you were living abroad?
Yeah, a lot, a lot, a lot,
Yeah.
especially in a very positive light. I think when I was leaving Kenya initially, it was more of um opportunity, number one, which was how it presented itself. But number two, I think we all have these stereotypes of African countries and how I don't know how to say it, how hard it is to be successful in such environments because there's a lot of things going on. You know, it's still developing. There's certain industries. I'm very passionate about research, and because I come from a developing country, that's not really something that really dedicate a lot of resources to. And so, when I was leaving, I felt like I was running away from something that I felt like I was running away from what people were like, oh yeah, if you stay here, you're not going to be successful. You know, these are things that you can only get from outside. And so that was my mindset when I was leaving. And I remember even telling my parents, like, I'm really keen on staying there. Like after I finish, like I want to work there. And even when I got there, I was really trying to understand what to do in case I wanted to stay or which other countries to move to. And I was in Kenya in February of this year. And even when I came, I was only here for a week. When I came, I was I was like, I don't think I feel like I don't things are I was just like, no, I still want to go back. Like I want to go back. After the 1 week, I was like, thank God I'm ready to go back home. But now that I came back this time, I think I was seeing things very differently. And to me, it was more of understanding what 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 my country has to offer, what I'm working towards. And if it's not available, how can I be the person that creates that? How can I be the person? So it wasn't looking at it from the perspective of this is a country that doesn't have what I want, these industries are not really big, but more of how can I bridge the gap with what I know, and also I feel like you if you look for something in the right spaces, you're gonna find it. And so learning to my mindset really changed, and so even generally how I saw and how I interact with my country really changed, because as much as there's the part of it that doesn't work, like the corruption, the unemployment rates and stuff like that, there's still part of it that's working. Like there's people buying Bentleys and people buying Lamborghinis. And so learning to focus on that and see what is it that they're doing, how is it that they're doing it, what is their mindset. And so I think as soon as your mindset really changes, how you interact, for me, how I've interacted with my home country has become very different, even to the point where I'd be like, yeah, I'm definitely considering if I don't find, I have an option for a flight school in the US. And I'm just like, okay, if that doesn't work out, like I have a few flight schools here in Kenya that I'm actively considering being a part of. And for my finance, these are the different institutions that I feel like would cater towards what I'm working towards. So I think my perspective of my country has really shifted because of the change in mindset, and I've learned to appreciate a lot of things that we have going on, that it's so easy to take advantage to take
For
for
granted.
granted. Yeah. So definitely, I feel like studying abroad has really shaped
Mm.
how I feel about Kenya.
I think the important thing, like you said, there are a lot of things. So the fact that you are in a developing country gives you the options to do some things that even though in some other countries they are already started and developed,
Yeah.
you get to start
Mm-hmm.
from new. And most probably there is a topic. I don't know any examples now, but giving you an example of, this is the new thing that we have in Kenya, but in fact, it's not new in the world because it exists.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first option that you really have in a developing country. The second thing that you just said, that people are so different. In people are still buying Bentleys, but people are struggling to do the month,
Mm-hmm.
the end of the month. I think that's the downside of every malfunctional economy, which has a lot of corruption, because unfortunately that's the situation in which the middle
Yeah.
class is missing, because the middle class is building the power of an economy where you have a lot of money that are rolling and moving around. And I think when every country is figuring out that middle class, and they let the middle class grow, the economy of the country is getting
Yeah.
as high as possible. But I think the fact that it changed for you, it worked so good for you. I think that's amazing, because on a long term, just it's telling you, okay, what I have at home is not as bad as I thought it is. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um, then we talk about the personal growth. I have to go a bit to the fun side of your experience in Hungary and ask you, okay, do you have some fun story that you can tell us that happened to you in Hungary? Because I'm pretty sure that either a lost in translation moment, either a misunderstanding that now is making you laugh, even though back then it was most probably embarrassing or cringe, but now you can laugh about it.
Mm-hmm. Let me think a bit with regard to that.
Maybe a lost in translation, maybe, I don't know, maybe using local transportation, something that you have seen and then shock you, or maybe something that you didn't expect to see there. Maybe someone asking you dumb questions about Kenya, not making a difference between Kenya and Africa, because like every time when I'm giving you my example, every time when I'm far away, it's hard for people to
Mm-hmm.
make the difference between Romania and Europe, and everyone is telling, okay, so Romania, Paris, no, no, we are
Mm-hmm.
different. So do you have something like this
Um,
happen to you in Hungary?
hmm. I think this was interesting. I was working somewhere, and I remember I was considering traveling home. This was around August. So I was like, I'm considering traveling home for a trip. And one of the managers was like, "Oh my days, if you go to Kenya, like please make sure you bring me something." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure. What would you like me to bring you?" And they showed me like a fertility doll, something, some voodoo type of stuff. And I was like, "Wait, I think the first I didn't even clock this until I left. Like, what did she ask me to bring?" But she was very confident about it. Like she was like, "You don't know about it?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" She was like, "Let me show you a picture. Like, let me show you a picture. Like it's a fertility doll, like this and this and this." And I was quite shocked because I was like, I don't even know. One, I don't know what that is. Two, I don't even know where to get it if I was to buy it for you. And number three, who told you that we have that?
What do you think that we are
Yeah,
living in?
yeah, like I was just like, huh? Nah, 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 nah. Yeah, and
But
of
this is
course,
the
with
ignorance.
Kenya. Yeah,
This is
yeah,
the
yeah,
ignorance
yeah,
of
yeah.
people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like, and of course, Kenya is very popular for the safaris and stuff like that. So people are always like talking about it or asking about it. And so, yeah, that's usually an interesting conversation to have. And I don't think a lot of people expect a certain level of development from these countries, because I feel like sometimes we're just having a casual conversation and you're just like, "Oh my days, I really want to go back to Nairobi." And they're like, "Oh yeah, because of your family." No, no, no. The city is just generally better. Like we have a lot of things going on. It has it's it's actually, even if home was out, what I could do there and the things that they have to offer in terms of fun activities and that type of stuff, there's a lot of good things going on. And then you show them the videos And they're like, oh my days, like that actually looks pretty good. So I think oftentimes it's easy to assume that, you're away from home, and that's maybe one of the reasons why you'd really value going back home. But I think there's really more to what our cities have to offer outside even family, but just the way people are, how people choose to pursue entertainment, like what entertainment options are there, that type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And as I said, it's just unfortunately, it's just the ignorance of the people, and I have
Mm-hmm.
to say this is the ugly part. It's just the ignorance of the people who are saying, okay, Africa. They've seen some pictures and they thought, okay, everyone is doing like that, and not having the interest of looking left and right to see how people that there are a lot of developed places and so on. But I think that makes the fun of it, right? Because now you can laugh about it. It was maybe strange back then, but now
Yeah,
it's fun. You can laugh about it.
yeah. And I think it also goes both ways.
Absolutely, it always goes both ways. Always.
But yeah, because I also didn't know much about Hungary. And in my head, I thought all Europeans are the same. But then I get there and I'm just like, wait, every country has its own personality. Germans are different, French people are different, Austrians are different. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. It goes both ways. You are far away, and that's why you are doing this. Did you develop any kind of hobby, and any kind of fun activity while you are in Hungary that you haven't had in Kenya?
Yeah. I was a DJ and I became a DJ while I was there. So, I remember at some point I told you I moved to Budapest. So during that time, I was on a passive semester. So I wasn't really going to school. And I remember I just went and bought a deck online and I stayed with it in the house. I pressed every button until I learned what each of them does. And I remember just reaching out to an organizer and being like, "Hi, this is me. I didn't even have a name yet. I was like, this is me. I just bought a deck. I learned how to use it. I see you have a party. Can I come?" And so I think I really used to like music. And so that was a hobby that really tapped into that interest that I had. And I really got to connect with people over something that I genuinely liked and appreciated. And so to the point where I traveled to other European countries for shows just to play. And so it was quite nice. It was really quite nice, and it went hand in hand with content creation because while I was there, I really used to vlog my experience. So I used to get asked a lot, okay, so what do pilots do? What do you guys do? How is class for you guys? So I used to vlog to to kind of and to kind of create a visual idea of what our day-to-day life was. Even when I was DJing, like I used to vlog my experiences. And so those are two hobbies that I developed while I was there that have really become a core part of like who I am today. So yeah.
Nice. The DJ part we have in common. I was a DJ for about 7 years,
Oh my
7.5,
days.
I think. Yeah, was
Mm-hmm.
really cool. Why did you stop?
Oh, I didn't really stop.
Okay.
So what happened was I haven't played since I came to Kenya because I feel like the partying culture here is very different from the partying culture in Hungary. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to understand a bit of that. And I'm looking forward to having shows here in Nairobi this coming year in 2025. But I even remember just before I left Hungary, I'd come from a show in Belgrade, in Belgrade, and it was really, really nice. I had a really fun time. I was meant to go and play New Year's as well, but I wasn't gonna be in Hungary around that time, so it was just like, okay, so that's an opportunity I'm gonna have to let slide. Yeah.
Nice. I mean, that's a nice experience. And like you said, that's a
Um,
nice way of meeting people. That's really a nice way of,
Yeah.
of getting connecting to people. What was your style? What was your music style?
The genres that I preferred were Amapiano, which is South African music. So, yeah, kind of South African music, Afrobeat, Afro house. Like I really like the African sounds. And it was really, I also used to enjoy interacting with a lot of Hungarians that were really interested in it and enjoyed it. Like they found the joy in it. So those were the genres that I used to play primarily. And yeah.
Okay. That's a nice experience. That's a really nice experience. If you have somewhere said that I can link in the description below, I would be more than happy if you can send me the link after our call.
Okay, 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 of course. I will.
Because that would be. I mean the DJ activity itself. It's amazing. I loved it as
Mm-hmm.
well, and I miss it. I
Why did you stop?
because life happened.
Oh.
It was it was an for me it was an amazing time because I started somewhere in the first year of high school, so it was the craziest
Mm-hmm.
time to start that activity, and I was doing it every weekend for about 7 years. So every weekend, every holiday, every Christmas, every and besides that wedding and so on. So it was a nice activity. That's why really nice, really 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 nice. I do appreciate it a lot. Um, Michelle, we're close, slowly coming to the end of this nice and amazing conversation. I'm happy that I got to know you, and I have always some questions that I like to ask at the end. Um, why should someone consider Hungary to study there?
I would recommend I would definitely recommend studying in Hungary because of especially if you're Kenyan, it's a really it's an interesting it's an interesting experience in terms of the opportunities that you get. I would recommend Hungary for certain fields, like if you're in finance, if you're in tech. My funny thing is my childhood doctor actually studied in Hungary in the 90s, I think, which was really crazy. But yeah, um, I would recommend Hungary because I feel like even as the years are going by, they're continuing to open up to a lot of foreigners and embracing them. There's not that much culture shock now as back then. So I would recommend studying there because number one, it's in Central Europe. It's a really nice European experience without having to go through the expensive cost as opposed to countries like Germany or France. So you really, really get to enjoy a different way of life and a very vibrant city. I feel like Budapest is quite vibrant. And like I said, the younger generation, like my peers, are really friendly, really, really open to understanding more about you and teaching you also about their culture. So, in terms of that, I feel like it's a really wonderful environment to immerse yourself in. And I feel like you'll definitely either end up learning more about yourself or about your country and even more about Hungary. And yeah, like I feel like it's quite a wonderful experience, and I would definitely recommend it to people who are keen on pursuing it. Yeah.
Nice. You made a fair point for studying abroad through all our discussions, because of your personal development, and I think that's something that one should take from this discussion. That I think the best way to find yourself is to go away from your parents for a while and to see exactly who
Mm,
exactly you are and how exactly are you able to overcome the challenges.
yeah.
Um, where is home? Is it Kenya? Was it shortly Hungary?
Hmm. I think that's a hard question to say because I feel like when I think of Hungary, sometimes my friends text me now that I've been in Kenya for a while, and I just really miss how there I feel like being home has made me see like, oh my days, I can't just get on a bus and go to my friend's place. We can't just decide to go for brunch together tomorrow because we're in different continents. So I feel like in terms of um my vision and what I'm working towards, I feel at home in Hungary in that sense. And in regards of like love and like community and the sense of and the sense um of feeling at home, Kenya is Kenya is that for me. Because I was telling my friend the other day how when I'm in Kenya, I can easily sit in my house, in my parents' house all day, and I won't even feel lonely or feel like I'm craving community. But when I was in Hungary, when I sit in the house for too long, I'm just like, oh my God, I have to call my friend and we have to link up. So I feel like I I I I feel like Kenya will be home. Kenya will be home for me as my first Kenya will be my first home. And Hungary, I feel like that's a city that I feel like I'm very connected to now that I've been there and I found myself and I got to understand myself when I was there. So in terms of the person that I'm constantly working towards, I feel like I have to make at least 1 or 2 trips to Budapest in a year just to reacquaint myself with my experiences there.
Home away. Home away from home.
Yeah, it's my home away from home. It's my second home.
Um,
It would be nice to get a
what does
passport. Yeah.
that's something from the Hungarian government now? Okay, just
Yeah, yeah,
be
yeah.
aware of this.
Yeah.
um, how does happiness look like for you?
Hmm. I feel like as of now, my happiness is really tied to it's really tied to my wellness in general. How am I doing? How am I doing physically? How am I doing mental health wise? How am I doing in terms
Mhm.
of what I'm working towards? That general wellness, I think, is what I define as happiness. Every single day, as I wake up and I'm healthy, and even when I'm not healthy, I know that I have the resources to get better. And being able to take each day at a time, working towards my vision for myself, career wise, and in terms of personal growth, I think that makes me feel happy. I feel happy every time. Sometimes I even just look at my days, at my experiences before, and I reflect on how far I've come, and it just fills me with a certain sense of joy. So I feel like that's how I'm defining happiness as of this particular moment. Yeah.
That's a really good definition. Healthy is the most important thing that we never
Hmm.
appreciate. We always take for granted, but we never appreciate.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Um, the last thing, and now I will push on this topic because you told me you did the DJing stuff. I
Hmm.
want to have a song or a band recommendation from you first.
Hmm. For a band recommendation, okay, but they kind of split. But we have a Kenyan band called Sauti Soul, and they're really, 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 they've made really, really good music, and I feel like it really depicts. But yeah, in terms of music, if I was to recommend a Kenyan band or music group, I would definitely recommend Sauti Soul. They have amazing music,
Nice.
and yeah,
Um, what about the movie recommendation?
a movie recommendation. Hmm. I've been into shark movies of late, so I would say Under Paris on Netflix.
Okay,
Yeah, that
good.
was that was that was good. Yeah, that was
We
good.
we all have that face. Yeah. I haven't seen a shark movie in a while.
Oh my days. I've binged everything I can find on the internet that has that involves a shark. Yeah.
Okay. And a book recommendation?
A book recommendation, I would say my current read. It's called Creativity Inc. by, let me just check who it's by. But I really like it. And yeah, I would recommend anyone
I
to read it.
I
Just let me
think I know
check
the book.
through. You think you know it? Yeah,
Amy
it's
Wallace
but
and Edward Cadwell, right?
yeah,
That's on.
yeah, by
Yeah,
Ed Catmull. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's a really nice book.
It's a really good one. Yes, for sure. I
Yeah.
can I can only support that recommendation. Um, Michelle, thanks a lot for your time. I'm
Hmm.
extremely happy that I got to know you. Um, and thank you for sharing. It was an amazing conversation.
It's been a pleasure to be a part of the conversation as well.
Pleasure
And
for
I'm
me.
glad that you reached out. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time again. And maybe see you next time after your US experience.
Definitely. I'd love to come back and talk about that experience. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, thanks, Michelle. Have a good one. See you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.